Welcome in. Today we're checking out an automatic Coca Farm and mix. So from seed to finished end product, fully mixed. We are going to be just kind of walking through what it is we're using and kind of the flow of the product. So the first thing I want to talk about is what you'll need. You're going to need 18 large storage shelves, 5 drying racks, 10 suspension racks, 10 full spectrum lights, 10 air pots, 2 cauldrons, 2 lab ovens, 1 packager, which is not 100% needed, 1 brick press, 8 mixing station Mark IIs, 10 beds, and 2 trash cans. Now, I said that the mixing the packager is not necessary. This is just so that if I want to like mix manually or pack manually stuff for customers that are like following me or whatever, or if I decide I want to go deal myself, I can bag it up here and I can just take a brick off the shelf and break it down. As far as the cost of everything that I just mentioned inside of that whole list, you're looking at around $33,030 if you get everything that I said in the list, what I'm using here. As far as the process goes, you have your 2 botanists, you have 2 chemists, and 2 handlers, and then a cleaner. This dude he's not used. They're just there. I haven't fired him yet, and I was doing a lot of testing. But so 2 botanists, 2 chemists, the 2 handlers, and the cleaner. So the supplies for the botanist is here and over here, and each botanist has 5 pots. And one of the botanists has 3 racks, and the other one has 2. I don't need the 6th one. It doesn't make much sense since we're not fully filling up all 5. But they go from here over to the racks. The racks turn them into heavenly. And then the botanists take them and they put them on this shelf. Now I have them going to a shelf instead of to the cauldrons directly because there's 5 and I want them to be basically split up equally. So they go to the shelf and then a handler comes and splits them up between the 2. This one right now is almost full and this one is only got 1 stack. It's very hit or miss whether or not this one is like close to full or if it's not. So I guess it's just based on like when I sleep, because this one is always going to get filled first. But so it gets cooked here, then it gets put over here. The chemist that runs these 2 cauldrons is the same one that runs these 2 ovens, so you only need 1 chemist for this whole little square. Once it's done here, it gets taken over to this shelf, and then from this shelf a handler takes it and brings it to this area. And then that same handler takes these items and puts them here, takes these items, puts them here, these items here, and these items here. Once the product is done in this one, the chemist will put it over here, and then the chemist will finish it here, and then put it over here, and so on. There's a chemist that does these 2 stations and these 2 stations, so they do all 4. And then there's another chemist that does these 2 and these 2. Once it's done here, the chemist takes it and puts it on this shelf, as seen by Brandon here. And then a handler comes, takes it from here, puts it here, bricks it up, puts it on this shelf. Another handler who had a spare task comes and grabs it off of this shelf and brings it up to the front here where I keep all of the outgoing product, which has not been too bad as far as like keeping up with stuff. But this is like I think $735 product. Let's see. Yeah, $735 suggested, meaning it probably can go somewhere between like $850 or $1,000, just depending on what your reputation is. Once it goes all the way here, then you know it's up to me to get it out to the dealers or break it up into individual bags if I want it. As far as things that you need to be actually doing yourself, you need to make sure that you fill in this shelf, that shelf. So you need to get the soil, the fertilizer, and the seeds for both the botanist. And then you need to also make sure that you are filling this shelf with gasoline, which you don't need to have it filled. Like, if you don't want to have this one, you don't have to have it, but it's just easier to have a full shelf of gas because you're gonna want to manually fill those yourself, because it takes 2 hours for full stack of gasoline to go through on here. And there's no point in putting a handler on it. It doesn't really do you any good. It's more of a waste than anything. As far as the last things you need to pay attention to are the supply shelves, which I am doing a very bad job right now at actually paying attention to them. As you can see, they're running empty. They do tend to run empty if you're not paying attention to them pretty quick. As far as this shelf goes, this is more of a reference shelf. I don't know about you, but trying to remember the recipes, I don't want to have to like backtrack through, like this one required this other one, so I have to go see what that one required and just keep like backtracking through it to figure out the needed things. So I just have a shelf that has a stack of everything in order as far as my recipe goes, as a reference. So nobody's taking anything from that, nobody's adding anything to it, nobody's moving it around or anything like that. That just stays there, so when I run out of stuff like I am right here, like I wouldn't know that, hey, this is gasoline and this is Coke without this or remembering it, and I'm not gonna write it down. So as far as the beds, I do have 11 beds at the moment, and that's because I have that one employee that I'm not using. But I could remove that one bed and it would just be the 11, or excuse me, the 10 beds, the 9 for the employees and then the 1 for myself. And then if you wanted to change this up, some people don't care about using the racks to get that higher quality. If you wanted to do it the other way and just have mass amounts of product, you can get rid of these 5 racks and add 6 pots, and then that'll fill up the 2 botanists fully and you'll have 16. The thing to keep in mind though is that if you add those 6 pots, you will want to add 2 more cauldrons to be safe. So keep in mind that that's going to increase your the cost of your stuff by about $6,000 if you add 2 cauldrons. And then whatever the cost of the rack, the pots, and the lights for those 6. Pretty much, that's about it. As far as like the output goes, it's usually somewhere between 3 and 5 bricks a day, depending on like when I wake up. If I, stay up later or something and those happen to run, then I'm going to get more the next day, because when they start working, they're immediately going to put them out. And then the mixing station, they just fly through that stuff. So, but if I do it like I'm supposed to, where it's like, okay, it's time to go to sleep, and I go to sleep and then they go right back to work, then it's probably going to be on the lower end, somewhere in the 3 to 4. It just depends on what time you actually end up getting to sleep. But it's pretty decent, I would say. Right now, this operation would supply the 3 dealers that most people have at this point, for sure. Usually you have the 4, but the 3 for sure that you would be able to supply them with product to keep them busy without having to worry about them saying that they're out of product. So pretty useful. If you wanted more product, You can't really do it here because of the worker limitations, but the barn is just barely smaller than the warehouse, and you could put the same build inside of there. So if you wanted to do another build and double your product, you could do that. Another thing you could do, which I've heard people say that they do, is you could have one building for your heavenly stuff, because you do need to have the higher quality stuff for some of the people. I just prefer to do all of it at the same and not deal with the lower quality. But you could have one that does just the high quality stuff, and then have like the barn do the same thing, but instead of with the drying racks, just have the 16 plants, and then you'd be putting out more product. It would just be at a lower quality, which is fine if that's what you're aiming for, right? But that's pretty much it. If you found this video useful, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe. We are trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year, which, considering this channel's like 4 months old and we're already close to 2,000, I'd say it's possible to get there, so we're aiming for that. If you had any issues or questions, or you didn't like the way that I did the video, whatever, just leave a comment, let me know, and I can answer questions or take your criticisms to heart, I guess, whatever. With that said though, you have a fantastic rest of your day, and that's all I got for you. Peace.